So, you guys remember the story about the bounties, right? This claim that Russia was putting bounties on the heads of US troops in Afghanistan, right? That Russia was allegedly going and paying the Taliban to kill American troops. You remember this from last year? So this was first reported by the New York Times, but of course, even the British media repeated it, right? This is from The Guardian. They're saying, Russia offered bounty to kill UK soldiers. Yeah, okay, well, it turns out, by the way, here's the New York Times. When Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill US troops, intelligence says. And they say the Trump administration has been deliberating for months about what to do about a stunning intelligence assessment. Well, it turns out this was all nonsense. This was all nonsense. So now this is again from The Guardian from April 15th. They're saying the United States has low to moderate confidence in reports of Russian bounty on US troops. So you're telling us that that was all nonsense. Is that it? I see. So US intelligence agencies have only, quote, low to moderate confidence, unquote, in reports last year that Russian spies were offering Taliban militants in Afghanistan bounties for killing US soldiers. The reports in the press citing intelligence sources sparked outrage and demands from Democrats for the Trump administration to confront the Kremlin over the issue. Unveiling a raft of sanctions against Russia on Thursday, US officials said that the allegations of Russian bounties was not one of the grounds for imposing the measures, but a warning had been sent to Moscow that there would be a punitive response if such incentives were found to have been paid in the future. So the United States, they just slapped Russia with a bunch of sanctions, okay? And, Biden signed an executive order for that. Let's take a look at it, okay? So they're saying here basically that, Russia is guilty of hacking and interfering in their elections. And, take a look at what Biden said about that, right?
Hello, folks. Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this week, I spoke with President Putin of Russia about the nature of our relationship, the relationship between our two countries. And I was candid, respectful. The conversation was candid and respectful. Two great powers with significant responsibility for global stability. And President Putin and I have had a significant responsibility to steward that relationship. I take that responsibility very seriously, as I'm sure he does. Russia and Americans are both proud and patriotic people. And I believe the Russian people, like the American people, are invested in a peaceful and a secure future of our world. During the campaign for the presidency, I was unequivocal that if I was elected president, I'd respond to any attempt to influence our elections, the last election, and because elections are sacred. They're sovereign undertakings. They're an expression of the will of the American people. And we cannot allow a foreign power to interfere in our democratic process with impunity. And I told them if it turned out that as I thought, that there was engagement in our elections, that I'd respond.
I mean, honestly, the irony of the United States talking about respecting other countries into elections and not interfering in other countries' affairs. That's hilarious. That's so rich coming from the United States. Nonetheless, if we look at the fact sheet that was published by the White House about these sanctions that they've just slapped Russia with. So here you can see the section that says reported Afghanistan bounties. The administration is responding to the reports that Russia encouraged Taliban attacks against US and coalition personnel in Afghanistan based on the best assessments from the intelligence community. Given the sensitivity of this matter, which involves the safety and well-being of our forces, it is being handled through diplomatic, military, and intelligence channels. The safety and well-being of U.S. military personnel and that of our allies and partners is an absolute priority of the United States. So, given that this was not one of the reasons of the sanctions, but it was still mentioned in the fact sheet, someone asked the White House spokesperson, Jen Psaki, about that. So let's take a listen, shall we?
It reports that Russia encouraged Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. The word report seems to leave some ambiguity. Does the White House believe Russia placed bounties on American troops?
Well, I would say first that we felt the reports were enough of a cause of concern that we wanted our intelligence community to look into those reports as a part of this overall assessment. They assessed with low to moderate confidence, as you alluded to, that Russian intelligence officers sought to encourage Taliban attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. The reason that they have low to moderate confidence in this judgment is in part because it relies on detainee reporting, and due to the challenging environment, and also due to the challenging operating environment in Afghanistan. So it's challenging to gather this intelligence and this data. I will say that we assess, our intelligence community, I should say, assesses that a General Staff Main Intelligence Directorate, GRU, also known as, manage interaction with individuals in Afghan criminal networks. We have high confidence in that assessment, and the involvement of this GRU's unit is consistent with Russia's encouraging attacks against U.S. and coalition personnel in Afghanistan. So while there's low to moderate assessment of these reports, we felt it was important for our intelligence community to look into it, and we of course will not stand by and accept the targeting of our personnel by any elements, including a foreign state actor. This information really puts the burden on Russia and the Russian government to explain their engagement here. Go ahead.
Jen, given that assessment, does the president have any regrets for how many times he attacked President Trump on the campaign about this issue for not taking action related to the Russian bounties?
Well, I'm not going to speak to the previous administration, but I will say that we had enough concern about these reports and about the targeting of our men and women serving, the men and women who are proudly serving around the world, that we wanted our intelligence community to look into it. Now, again, there are several factors that contributed to the low to moderate confidence in the judgment, including the difficulty of the operating environment, and of course the reliance on detainee reporting. At the same time, we still feel there are questions to be answered by the Russian government.
Another on foreign policy. With the Russia decision, with the Afghanistan decision, just trying to get a sense of how the administration operates here. There's still Americans unjustly detained in Russia. I believe there's an American who was kidnapped by.
Those are a lot of words to say that it's not true, right? Oh, we cared enough about it to look into it, and the Russia, it's bullshit. There were no bounties. It's nonsense. Interesting, right? Do you remember how furious all these Democrats were? Oh my God, Trump, look at what he's doing. He's enabling Putin. Oh, Russia, 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 Russia. How dare you? How dare you abandon our sacred troops? Right? Do you remember that? From The Guardian, look. Outrage mounts over report. Russia offered bounties to Afghanistan militants for killing U.S. soldiers. They were losing it. They were absolutely losing it. Just to remind you, here's a very succinct supercut from Daily Caller. Take a look.
In our World Lead today, President Trump dismissing the Russian bounty intelligence story as a hoax meant to damage him and Republicans. The president often touts his relationship with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin.
The White House also responding tonight to a bombshell report accusing Russia of offering bounties to the Taliban to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan.
And now you know from this reporting in the New York Times, which has since been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, that not only does the president know that Russia was paying for American soldiers' deaths.
News. Get this. The Washington Post is now reporting that the alleged Russian bounties to Taliban fighters in Afghanistan are believed to have resulted in the deaths of U.S. troops.
Like this New York Times story about a stunning U.S. intel assessment, finding that Russia secretly offered Afghan militants bounties to kill U.S. troops.
So comes under fire over those bombshell reports that the White House was told Russia was paying bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
The most important application of that question is, what did the president know about Vladimir Putin offering a bounty for the killing of American soldiers in Afghanistan, and when did he know it?
A senior Afghan official confirmed to CBS News that the reports were not only true, but the Russian government achieved some success with their plans.
Barry Cayley, I cannot tell a lie McEnany, insists the president does in fact read everything he needs to read. We need to look at the real threat to U.S. troops and the risk that Russia was putting a bounty on their heads.
That Americans found out this weekend that Vladimir Putin is paying to put bounties on the heads of American troops.
I can't stand
telling CNN that the White House was warned about Russia offering bounties, actual bounties to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
He's not even there yet. He's still suggesting that the reporting about the fact that there were these bounties offered is fake. Meanwhile, your organization, the New York Times and others, are getting some fairly detailed reporting about how it actually works.
Despite those denials over and over, sources tell CNN that last week the U.S. even shared that intelligence with British officials, as some of the British troops would have been targeted as well.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
Public report.
That's the only honest thing Hillary has ever said in her life. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, to say nothing of putting bounties on American troops.
It's unbelievable, Joy.
Yeah.
Oh God! Like you can see that she knows it's bullshit. It's unbelievable. Oh my God! They are such crappy actors. They really are. They really are. How they sit there on MSNBC, right? Like you just hear the hum from the studio equipment. It's like dead silent. It's like that he knew, and he told us over and over, and did not stand up to Vladimir Putin. How is it possible that all of these news outlets with zero evidence just accept whatever these unnamed intelligence sources tell them and report it as fact, right? They don't even scrutinize it. It's not like, okay, we looked into this and, we made sure that we did our due diligence and, after really excruciating reporting, we found so-and-so. No, it's just, look, these are what the sources told us, and this is how it is, right? We just accept it blindly, and we just report it as fact, right? I mean, if you want to come here and talk about state media, that is state media, right? As Glenn pointed out on Twitter earlier, that's like the definition of state media. Just you just take and just repeat like a parrot whatever they say without any evidence. Like there's no evidence for it. It's completely false, right? And you remember what Biden was saying? Do you remember how he was scolding Trump about this?
President Trump, the commander-in-chief of American troops serving in a dangerous theater of war, has known about this for months, according to the Times, and done worse than nothing. Not only has he failed to sanction or impose any kind of consequences on Russia for this egregious violation of international law, Donald Trump has continued his embarrassing campaign of deference and debasing himself before Vladimir Putin. He has this information, according to the Times, and yet he offered to host Putin in the United States and sought to invite Russia to rejoin the G7. His entire presidency has been a gift to Putin.
I like how now he's president and he did not sanction Putin either for that. And we had a respectful conversation on the phone. Basically, this entire video is Biden saying how dare Trump not blindly swallow some bogus that was put out by the intelligence community, and how dare he be diplomatic with another power. Oh my God, the travesty. The travesty. Like, out of all the crap that you could criticize Trump for, legitimately, like really abhorrent, heinous things that he's done and said, no, we're gonna criticize him for not swallowing our nonsense, right? And again, this is what is so amazing, is that you had other outlets coming around and confirming this propaganda for the New York Times, right? So here's John Hudson from Washington Post. Okay, this is dated June 27th, 2020. He says, "We have confirmed the New York Times scoop. A Russian military spy unit offered bounties to Taliban-linked militants to attack coalition forces in Afghanistan. See, the whole team of them, man. It's a whole team of them. They all confirmed it. They confirmed it. And I love how it's not just they confirmed it. It's, oh man, we know that Trump isn't even reading his briefings. Like it's Trump's fault as well, right? Unbelievable. And you remember Kamala Harris saying Donald Trump called John McCain a loser? I'd go with terrorist. But she says also he let Putin get away with placing bounties on the heads of our troops. David Frum, this former Bush speechwriter, this disgusting neocon at the time, is saying the story about the Russian bounty was reported by the New York Times, Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. That doesn't mean it's certainly true, but it does mean that very credible people in the U.S. intelligence service are angry and alarmed. And of course, right, this is this plausible deniability so that when it ultimately comes out that it's all nonsense, hey, look, man, I didn't say it's true, but, you know, it's sort of true. And you remember that they used this, right? They used this story about Russian bounties as an excuse to extend the war in Afghanistan, right? Once again, in true bipartisanship for all things war and corporate, Democrats came together with Liz Cheney, the demon spawn of Dick Cheney, who started the war in Afghanistan, and they imposed, they basically forbid Trump to use any funds for the withdrawal, right? And they also said that in order to withdraw, you need to meet these conditions, right? And they basically amended that to the National Defense Authorization Act. And here, I think Glenn wrote about this in July 2nd, 2020. So, basically, the House Armed Services Committee voted overwhelmingly in favor of an amendment jointly sponsored by Democrat Congressman Jason Crow of Colorado and Congresswoman Cheney, right? Congresswoman Halliburton, prohibiting the expenditure of monies to reduce the number of U.S. troops deployed in Afghanistan below 8,000 without a series of conditions first being met. And, they, of course, cited the bounties as a reason for that, right? Shortly after those White House withdrawal plans were reported, anonymous intelligence officials leaked a series of claims to the New York Times. Brilliant, immaculate timing, right? Regarding bounties allegedly being paid by Russia to Taliban fighters to kill U.S. troops. Amazing, right? Amazing how that comes right at the always on time. And, it's of course hilarious to me that they even try to sell this story, because not only is it, of course, oh, look, well, these sources tell us, which is what happened during the Iraq War, right? The entire WMD's fiasco, why was it so scandalous? Because the entire press corps on both sides of the Atlantic was just repeating everything that the intelligence community said, even when it was completely fake. You had Dick Cheney, who, again, God, that family is a curse, coming along and pressuring, right, the intelligence agencies to come up with stuff to make it look like that Iraq has WMDs, right? You remember Deep Throat as well? I mean, they conjured up all of this, and no one scrutinized it. There's no scrutiny, right? So these outlets, they're not performing their duty as, a fourth estate. They're not actually holding power accountable. They're upholding the government. They're aiding it. They just repeat whatever it is, right? They don't care. They don't care. And, it's incredible because Rachel Maddow, just as late as last week, okay, so this is when April 8th, I went and I looked for this and I found it and I recorded it and I had to suffer through it, so you're going to suffer through it with me as well. This is as late as last week, okay? April 8th. I want you to listen to her podcast. Not the whole thing. I'm not a sadist, but listen to this.
In Russia, your guess is as good as mine. But as all this is unfolding, Bloomberg News reports tonight that the Biden administration is preparing a set of retaliatory actions against Russia for a range of offenses, including their interference in the 2020 election, their alleged bounties on U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, and also their treatment of Alexei Navalny. Bloomberg pointing out that these actions will be the outcome of an intelligence review of Russia's...
See, she's still repeating it. She's still repeating this nonsense about bounties, right? She loves it. She loves it. Here, let me remind you. I know you're going to hate this, but I have to. I'm sorry. Right? This also from June 2020.
It's one level of bad to realize that Russia is doing this, right? That the U.S. intelligence has concluded that Russia is paying cash money to people for killing U.S. troops. That is very, very bad. But it's a whole other level of bad to know that the U.S. president has known that Russia was doing that for 4 months. And during that time, he's chosen to do nothing about it. That is a whole other level of crisis.
Where are you getting this from?
In fact, during the time that the president has had this information, he's had at least a half dozen apparently super chummy phone calls with the Russian president. After those phone calls, he has made a bunch of unilateral offers to Russia of policy stuff that Russia might want for free, with him asking nothing in return. The president during this time has advocated that Russia get back into the G7. When other members of the G7 said no over our dead bodies, he canceled the G7. He also moved to take thousands of U.S. troops out of Germany, which is a longtime Russian priority to get that many U.S. and NATO forces out of Germany. That apparently he didn't even talk to the Pentagon or the State Department about in advance. The president just announced he would be granting that Russian wish in exchange for, again, nothing. And he has done these things. He has had these half dozen conversations with Putin and made those unilateral offers to Russia to give them things they want after he reportedly was briefed. After the White House had started convening high-level meetings to discuss the fact that the Russian president is paying cash, literally cash, dollars, for the murder of Americans in Afghanistan.
Oh, she's insufferable. Shut the fuck up, you goddamn swan-necked motherfucker. Look at how melodramatic she is. Like, she's convinced, like she was in the room. She was hiding under the desk when Trump was briefed. Like, I was there. He was briefed. He did nothing. Where is she getting this from? Like, who writes this crap? This is literally fiction. It's fiction. And then, of course, it doesn't stop there, right? They went on and said Iran was placing bounties. Iran, right? Iran was placing bounties on American troops, right? Because Iran has nothing better to do. Iran has so much foreign currency, by the way, right? Under sanctions. They just have it lying around, man. Yeah, they can just spare it on bounties. Like, unbelievable. That was a copy-paste job. A copy-paste job. I posted it on Twitter. They copied and pasted the headline and changed Russia to Iran, right? And I told you, you're going to have Chinese bounties, Syrian bounties, chocolate bounties. They're going to do all of it. You think that because this Russian bounty thing is debunked for now, they're not going to continue the Iran bounties or the China bounties? They can still use that. They could still use that. And what's astounding to me is that this is not even news. Already back in September, I covered this with you guys. You had a top general from Afghanistan, right? Top U.S. general in Afghanistan saying that all of this talk about the bounties, the evidence is inconclusive, meaning it's bogus, right? So I'm also a bit confused why everyone is saying that, acting as if that's true. I mean, we knew from the moment that they came up with this. I told you it's bullshit. I told you this in June last year, right? The entire premise of it is ridiculous. Like, the Taliban do not need money to be convinced to kill American or British or coalition troops. They even say it, basically, in the original New York Times report. Although, again, you don't need that because it's common sense, right? So here, let me read this to you, all right? Mujahid, a spokesman for the Taliban, denied that the insurgents have any such relations with any intelligence agency and called the report an attempt to defame them. These kinds of deals with the Russian intelligence agency are baseless. Our target killings and assassinations were ongoing in years before, and we did it on our own resources. That changed after our deal with the Americans, and their lives are secure and we don't attack them, right? I mean, he's basically saying, like, you don't need to pay us. We do that pro bono, right? Yeah, I mean, that's obvious, right? And as a matter of fact, what's ironic is that the United States was paying the Mujahideen to kill Russians in Afghanistan. That's how they created Al-Qaeda in the first place, ultimately, right? They were funneling all these Stinger missiles and training and assets, right? And the CIA was coming in, and they were training and funding the Mujahideen to go and kill Russians. Not bounties. No. Fucking, surface to air missiles. Here, machine guns, like arming them to the teeth, go and kill Russians. And now they just flipped the script. I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? This only works when you make sure that your population stays ignorant. And how do they stay ignorant? With this kind of brain mush inducing rubbish. It's truly astonishing. It's truly astonishing, right? I want to read you a tweet over here from Professor Max Abrams. Had him on my show. He's really great. And he said here that the bullshit Russian bounty story was useful for the establishment to block Trump from getting a win in withdrawing American forces from Afghanistan. The bullshit story was removed the moment that the establishment wanted to give Biden a win by doing the same thing as Trump had wanted to do. That definitely has some truth to it. Definitely, it's funny how all those things you heard those anchors saying, more like propagandists, like Rachel Maddow saying, like, oh my God, he's engaging in diplomacy with Putin. He was on the phone. He's withdrawing troops now, and he didn't get anything in return. Yeah, okay. What did Biden get from the Russians to withdraw troops from Afghanistan? Was he not just on the phone now? Did he also not sanction Russia based on the bounties? He did everything that you just vilified Trump for. And again, no one cares about Trump, right? We're not trying to defend Trump, but it's just, look at the hypocrisy, right? It's the same crap, but now that Biden is doing it, they're okay with it, right? Again, this was just a story that they used in order to prolong the war. And I mean, even Trump is scummy in of himself, because if he actually wanted to withdraw from Afghanistan completely, you could do that in 24 hours, right? He didn't completely withdraw on purpose because, yeah, I mean, okay, first of all, you had the peace deal, but why was it May 1st, like after the election, right? Why were you deferring that to the next president, right? He wanted to use that as a kind of re-election, boost. That's it. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so anti-war, I'm anti-interventionist. And he goes and bombs Syria, bombs Iran, bombs Yemen, bombs Libya. Yeah, really anti-interventionist. And that's why he didn't completely do it. He was thinking that, okay, I can still appease both parties. But these people are really disgusting, honestly. These propagandists, a lot of them are still on the air, like Shep Smith, like Brian Williams, like Nicole Wallace. Nicole Wallace came in a bit after, but Shep Smith, Brian Williams. I mean, these people, Wolf Blitzer, they were selling the war in Iraq. Again, the same thing. They just blindly believed everything about WMDs. Look, Iraq has WMDs. Oh my God, 45 minutes away from attack. Look, he sent anthrax letter to Congress. Oh my God, they're sending chemical weapons to Congress now. What does it count? It counts a biological weapon, right? And then they're saying also, oh my God, look, Saddam, he's going to give nuclear weapons to Al-Qaeda. We have confirmation. And even Donald Rumsfeld was not even able to defend that crap. He's like, we have known knowns and unknown knowns and a word salad. And they just report it, right? The Washington Post, what's their headline after Colin Powell gives that presentation? This disgusting display at the UN Security Council, right? What does the Washington Post say in their headline? Irrefutable. Irrefutable. They just irrefutable. Here's a stamp of approval. This is irrefutable. This guy's bringing cartoon drawings of trucks as evidence of mobile bioweapons facilities. And they just rubber stamp it and report it as fact. That's how heinous these people are. And they're still here, right? They're still on the air, and they just keep doing the same crap because their whole job is to propagandize people. It's not to educate them or actually to hold power accountable and scrutinize the government. No, they're just a mouthpiece for the intelligence agencies. And I want to show you a clip over here. This is from a former CIA agent. All right, John Stockwell. And he's going to explain to you how the CIA and, of course, other intelligence agencies, and I'm sure the British do this all over the world. He's going to explain to you how they peddle propaganda to the mainstream media. OK, so take a look. That's, of course, if they're not doing it willingly, which is unfortunately already the case. But take a look at this, right?
What's happening in Nicaragua today from Honduras. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories.
Did you buy his confidence with true stories?
You buy his confidence and set him up. We've seen this happen recently with Jack Anderson, for example, who has his intelligence sources, and he has also admitted that he's been set up by them. You know, every fifth story just simply being false. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do, so you don't have to set them up sort of, you know, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the Church Committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA, including some of the biggest names in the business, to consciously introduce the stories into the press.
Well,
you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Straight from the horse's mouth. And his name's John Stockwell, right? The video's about 15 minutes long. And, you know, he goes on to detail how he would also go and meet with the British ambassador. He would meet with, you know, other foreign dignitaries and diplomats that were stationed abroad, and tell them, like, yo, if this journalist comes knocking and asking you about this troop movement that I told him about, or this story that I fed him, confirm it. Tell him it's true. So, you know, these journalists would think that they're going to different sources to get confirmation, and they're all in on it, these different sources, right? It's orchestrated. Cunning bastards, right? Cunning bastards. And you know what's hilarious to me after all this is that, oh, by the way, just before I move on to my next point, this tweet over here, this is from Sean McCarthy. And, you know, it's like I said, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, MSNBC, CNN, Daily Beast, New York Times, all confirmed and boosted this completely fake story. Again, you would have a better understanding of how the world actually works if you followed QAnon than if you credulously read corporate media. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, right? They all just circle jerk each other and confirm it for each other, but it's bogus, right? It's bogus because no one's going to hold them accountable, right? They're serving the establishment. What's going to happen to them? Nothing. And, you know, what's incredible to me is that after all of this, the only takeaway from Republicans, from conservatives, is that, oh, look how mean they were to Trump. Oh, these radical left Democrats, they're so mean to Trump. Bitch, fuck you and fuck Trump. It's not about Trump. This is about the national security state and the media collaborating to prolong wars, to propagandize people, to publish propaganda, nonsense, fabrications. That's the fucking issue. Not Donald Trump. Oh my God. Like, it's unbelievable, right? They're just about to get over the finish line and they just won't connect the dots. They just can't connect the dots, right? They can't connect the dots. And you had the former White House spokesperson going on Fox and railing about that, right? Oh, they're so mean to Trump.
Of questions about the Russia bounties. I cautioned reporters on the first day the story came out, and I said, look, do not be so quick to buy this New York Times story. This information is unverified. There are dissenting opinions in the intelligence community. Do not run with this narrative. It's just simply not true and not the case. But not only did they run with it, it is remarkable if you take a walk through memory lane at the New York Times, convincing military families who had their loved ones killed in action that, in fact, Russia bounties were probably to blame. And not only that, but their commander-in-chief, President Donald Trump, just simply didn't care. It was a heinous allegation. They ran with it. CNN dropped the word alleged from their reporting. The Washington Post said they had verified the reporting and then went on to give President Trump 4 Pinocchios over it. It was amazing. It was a story that a narrative.
Right. So again, this is what I find so hilarious about all these outlets, right? They all do fact checking now, as if that wasn't a prerequisite to journalism. You should have been fact checking before. Nonetheless, the Washington Post, their branding of it is Pinocchios, right? So if a story is false, or Trump would say something that they deem to be a lie, they would give him a rating of Pinocchios, right? and now they're outraged because the Washington Post won't remove it, right? They're still keeping that rating that Trump lied about the bounties when they lied about the bounties. But anyway, it's not like Xi and Trump were not getting up on that podium every day and, lying themselves, giving their own propaganda. Two sides of the same coin. Remember that. Two sides of the same coin. And, 99% of the time in all matters war and propaganda and, jingoism and xenophobia, they usually all agree, Democrats, Republicans. They usually always agree on virtually everything, right? So anyway, I just find it incredible that, this whole story, they ran with it. And even though they're kind of putting it on the back burner for now, it's like they're still going forward with Russiagate, right? They're still saying now that, oh, look, we have more evidence that the Trump campaign colluded. Oh my God, they won't ever drop it. Oh, I asked on Twitter, like, if they don't teach Americans about McCarthyism in school, about the Red Scare. Some of you answered that yes. I mean, there were thousands of answers. I couldn't read all of them. But my impression was that most of you said no, which is unfortunate. Which is unfortunate. I mean, this is what the Democrats are doing. It's just, it's a new iteration of McCarthyism. That's it. Oh, Red Scare. Oh my God, the Russians, the Russians, the Russians. Unbelievable. Honestly, unbelievable. These people are such scum. They really are.